Welcome to Modern Mom Probs, where we're trying to solve the world's modern mom problems. And if we can't do that, at least we're having fun talking about them. I'm Tara Clark. Let's go. Hey, Modern Mom crew. Welcome back to Modern Mom Probs, where we're trying to solve the world's modern mom problems. And if we can't do that, at least we're having fun talking about them. Have you left that review yet? Have you subscribed? I just wanted to say a reminder, just in case that you haven't left a positive review about the show yet. I hope you're enjoying it. You know, reviews go a really long way, and I appreciate you so much for being here today. I appreciate you for being here every week. So thank you for listening to our little show and getting the message through for modern moms and modern parents everywhere. Today's Modern Mom topic is talking with your child about puberty. And this is not a boring puberty talk. This is an empowering, I would call it an empowering puberty revolution. I am joined by Dr. Charis Chambers, aka the Period Doctor. She has a new book out called The Period and Puberty Parenting Revolution. It's time to own the conversation, empower your child, and rewrite the rules of parenting kids through puberty. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Dr. Chambers, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun to chat with someone who gets it.
I do.
About the thing that really makes me the happiest.
And it's not makeup. No, I'm just kidding. Because right before we jumped on, I was like, your makeup is so gorgeous. You look flawless in every video. Like, whether you're wearing a surgical cap and your scrubs coming out of the OR, or whether you're in your office, I'm like, how does she look so flawless all the time? And then I'm hanging on every word because I'm like, she's talking about period and puberty. And I'm looking at how great your eyeshadow looks. And it's like, you do it all. How do you do it all?
It's giving aunt. I feel like that's very mom coded, right? Like, we do it all. We can show up in these ways. And do I always look like that? Absolutely not. But if I want to, I can make it work. And that's just one of the things that I value, that I think is really fun. It's like peak girlhood, but I also think it's a good representation of what moms do every day.
Yes. Yeah. So well said. It is peak girlhood. And speaking of peak girlhood, you have an incredible new book out called The Period and Puberty Parenting Revolution. I've read it. It is a revolution. It is not your typical, this is a period and this is puberty and this is how the body works and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like a call to action. It is empowering us as parents to empower our children to not have the shame that we grew up with when we hit puberty and we got our periods.
Absolutely. And I wrote it that way intentionally. It has never been just a period. It has never been just puberty. The critical things that are occurring during this time period don't get the attention that they deserve. And so because I have subspecialized in pediatric and adolescent gynecology, I've seen hundreds of parent-child pairs and just seen parents who want desperately to do what's best for their child, but don't have the language, the tools, and haven't done the unlearning necessary to make it happen. And so I had to lay the groundwork. I had to set the stage. Like, this is what I see. This is why I feel so passionate about this. This is why I'm calling this a revolution, not an option, not an idea, not an elective, a revolution, because the change and the hopeful outcomes can truly be revolutionary.
It really is. It can be. And there's so many different aspects to it, right? It's just the period. It's not just the period talk. It's not just the puberty talk. It's the dealing with it with respect, the respect that it deserves.
Right. And questioning, really just calling parents in, because part of the challenge was creating something that goes deep without getting abrasive, without getting accusatory, that inspires, right? And that was the real challenge. And so I had to say, why can't your 12-year-old be worthy of respect? Yeah. And if they can't, when are they? Mm-hmm. If you know inherently that they are, what does that actually look like? And are you doing it? And so it's less of making it very complicated. It's peeling back the layers and getting to the foundational values that we carry, which are I want my child to be happy and I want them to know their inherent worth. And I don't want that to be predicated on what their body looks like or what period product they use or what even, identity they have from a gender standpoint. And so there's some subtle things in the book, like not assuming your child's gender, not assuming the parent's gender, calling in whatever adult knows how to show up for that child. There's so many features there that are little gems that are all very intentional.
Yeah. And it comes across. Absolutely. The intentionality comes across in that. And it's interesting, you know, I mentioned about respect and you said about respect for the 12-year-old. A huge part of parenting is laying that groundwork of respect with your child so that at some point they come to you if they really need you. And people often tell me, my son is 13 now, and they often say to me, how do you have such a good relationship? And I say, and these are often parents of younger children, and I say, you have to lay that groundwork today at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. So that by the time they are 13, they could come to you with these questions of my body's doing this, or I'm having these thoughts, or any of those types of things. And that doesn't happen overnight. You don't like just flick a switch and then all of a sudden everyone's confident and not shaming each other and all of that kind of stuff. You have to put in the work for years, essentially, to get to that point.
And you said it perfectly. It starts way earlier than most parents realize. And when parents are like, I don't know why my daughter hid her period from me for a year. I don't know why she was so worried, right, about telling me this. And I tell them every time, the person who taught her how you were going to respond was you. And it wasn't always to everything they did. It's how you responded to their peers, how you responded to women walking around, how you talked about your own body, how you said, oh, I look so sloppy today, or if only I was thinner, or that girl shouldn't be walking around with her tampon, or finding out someone started their period and saying, no, you know, that's terrible. Like those subtle responses, it is not just respect for your child. It's not even just respect for yourself. It is respect for all people who menstruate, for your people around you, for your neighbors, for your family members, for your friends. Your child is constantly studying you and determining whether you are safe, whether you can be trusted with their most vulnerable moments. And so you have to lay the groundwork and give them the evidence that you are safe, that you don't panic, that you don't rush to judge, and that you will always, no matter what they bring to you, no matter what they say, love them first.
Yes, that is it. That is absolutely it. So it's interesting when you said about hiding your period and I raised my hand. For the people listening on the audio, they wouldn't have known I raised my hand, but I'll give you a little bit of context. I'll do a little story time. I got my period when I was 10 years old. I was the first of all of my friends to get her period. It was even before the sex ed talk in 5th grade. So it was even before that. And I kind of like had an idea what it was, but I didn't want to say anything to my mom. She didn't lay that groundwork, right? So I remember when I would get my period, I would take toilet paper and wrap it up on my hand and then put it in my underwear. And like, that was that. And then if I got like blood on anything, I would take, I'll never forget it, because I could still almost smell it. I would take ivory soap and I would wash my underwear with ivory soap, like literally like, like in my hand, like old timey, like with your hands, doing ivory soap and a little bit of bleach. And I could like almost still smell the bleach. And then I would try to like wash my underwear that way for like a very long time. And then eventually, I don't know if my mom found out. That's probably what it was. And so her talk with me was this, and I'll never forget it, because I was sitting down, I was watching television, I was sitting on the floor eating dinner, because that's just kind of how we rolled. Oh yeah. I was sitting on the floor eating dinner, watching TV, and she came up to me, she just leaned over and she said, girls get periods, they wear pads. And then she walked away. And I was like, and then I just continued eating my dinner, continued watching television. And that was my talk. And at that point, I already had my period. And so then I took that as like, oh, well, I guess I have permission now to use her pads because she shared that information with me. And then that was it. And also, when we did have the talk in 5th grade, they gave us a kit of, I guess, like, I don't know, a corporation or something. It's like, here's this kit, like, here are some pads and here are some tampons. And I remember she took the tampons away and like threw them out and was like, oh, you can't have these. These aren't for you. And I was like, okay. And that was my whole puberty talk in a nutshell right there. That was it.
And that's still more than most people get. Like, depending on, you know, the age and environment, there's a lot of people who didn't even get that. And so there's so many questions that come up to mind, like, why? Like, Why throw out the tampons, right? Why not say more? Why was it so hush hush? Why did she feel like these 2 sentences were adequate? There's so many assumptions there. Even in the perfect scenario, right? Where you don't have any period issues, you don't have any underlying diagnoses, a bleeding disorder, endometriosis, PCOS, all the things that people can't have. Even in that perfect scenario, you are not armed with confidence or decision-making strategy or agency in that scenario. It makes you feel like there is no choice, there is no option, there is no path. This is just something that happens, and it happens to you, and there's not much you can do about it, but wear a pad. And that to me is just, it's not good enough.
No, that was it. And I remember being so like taken back, and she was almost sweating. I could tell. God bless her. Because like that was not like it. It's not her fault. And I'm not saying this story to throw her under the bus. It's a generational thing. It was where she was at that time. And that has nothing to do with her necessarily. It was more of what, her background was and all of that.
You're exactly right.
She was trying to do the best that she could with what she had. And I know she was a nervous wreck saying those 2 sentences, and she probably was like, okay. And then she like ran off and like probably had a cigarette and a cup of coffee and was like, okay, I got that off my chest now. Woo, cross that off my list.
Right. What's so remarkable about that story is the thing you pointed out. You were on the floor, eating dinner, watching television.
Yes.
And the potential, embarrassment, shame, stress, that was in your mom. And so there's a chapter in my book that says it's not about you, but it is, because so much of where we parent from, it comes from our traumas, our wounds, and just everything we experienced. And so what I have seen are many parents coming into the office creating a more complex picture. And the kid is like, I just need to know what to do about bleeding. Like they're literally like, so simple. I had a patient that was like, I just need to know what to pack in my bag for away games because we have to wear the white uniforms. Like, the kids can be so focused, but it's the parent carrying all of these things, generational things that were never addressed, that is projecting that through how they parent through that time. And so that's why I spend so much time laying the groundwork, like socially, culturally, politically, and even from a religious standpoint, the things that we carry inside of ourselves. I also start my book with my first period story, which I think is really important.
Yes, please share that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I opened the book telling my mother that I see blood. Like literally there's blood. And the whole reason was she told me to tell her. And as a child that was like more of a rule follower, I was middle child, like I hated doing things wrong. I was like, please, I don't want to get in trouble. It made me anxious. So she had told me if I ever see blood to tell her. And so I did. But when she kind of talked with me, it was not dissimilar to your experience. It was like, no one should ever know you're in a period. If you wear a tampon, don't wear it for too long. Always wrap your stuff up in a special way and then put it in the large bin in the garage, which still kind of perpetuated the secrecy because I'm like, this is our home, right? Yeah. But it was like, the no one should know. So I'm like, okay, I'm in a secret society. She trusts me to do this. And the other piece was we were about to go swimming. So I was able to use a tampon. So there was one aspect of a progressive piece there that she let me use a tampon with my very first period, the very first time I went, because I loved swimming. So I didn't
that's a big deal.
That taboo or that concern. I didn't even know that was a thing until I got to like junior high, and certain girls were like, "You wear tampons? What do you mean? Does your mother know?" I was like, "Yes, she buys them for us." I didn't know, but so what I mean to say is, most of what is burdened in this conversation, most of what feels heavy, is brought into the conversation by the parent.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we can enter that unburdened and actually allow this period experience to be your child's, that's already a revolution.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. When you just said about going swimming, it like instantly brought me back when I was still hiding my period. We were at my friend's house. She had a pool and we were swimming, and we got out of the pool and I was sitting on a white plastic chair, like a chair that you keep by the deck, whatever, right? And I remember like getting up, and her mom saw the blood on the chair and was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I must have cut myself," something like that. And I had to like play it off like that. I didn't have my period, didn't bleed on this poor girl's chair.
Like injury is preferred. It's like, no, I'm sure there was a rusty nail somewhere.
Right. You had a rusty nail in your pool, and that's why I'm bleeding.
Right. But not physiology. It's so wild. And that's the other kind of like question that like, an affront to logic. Like this is normal. And even just reminding parents, like, you can't freak out when it happens, but also freak out if it never did.
Yes.
Right? And many parents
Yes.
are like, okay, so if they never started their period, how would that land for you? They're like, oh no, I'd be terrified. So we agree they must start it. Okay. So where's the sweet spot? Like,
Yeah, it's true. You can't have it both ways. Like, you can't keep them a baby forever.
Exactly.
And then also not be prepared for when it does actually happen.
All of those things. And I was talking with someone else who mentioned, well, what about having an anxious child? Like, my child is super anxious, and that's why I don't want to bring up the period, conversation. I don't want to make them more anxious. So, well, how do you think they feel when they start bleeding? Right?
Yes.
Like, is that a better surprise? And then you do this like reactive sort of thing. Like, actually, you're not dying, and anxious child of mine. No. You introduce it slowly and introduce it as like a theoretical thing, or for someone else, like, mommy has a period. Like, it's not happening to you tomorrow, but it will eventually. How would you feel about that? Just placing, and it's early and often. That's the piece.
Often.
Early and often is how you introduce it. It's not a one and done conversation. Too many of us got one and done, 2-sentence, 4-rule conversations. We left ourselves like, that's odd. What else? Like, knowing that there are gaps. We knew there had been things left out of that conversation. Yeah. We're like, this is what I've got to work with. Like,
you're like, this is it.
Yeah, like a clue somewhere. Follow the red road. You're just like, what could that mean? Why?
No reason. But you're right. It goes back to shame. It goes back to my mom was sweating buckets having this conversation with me. And I'm sure that her mother, my grandmother, if she even did have that conversation, she probably didn't even have that conversation. She probably was sweating buckets too. And it goes back generationally.
It does. And part of this, obviously, I care desperately to make this experience better for the next generation, but I also want to make it better for moms. I want to make it better for parents. I want to make it better for the people who are tasked with being the trusted adults in the lives of young people. Like, it is hard to ask more of people without giving them more. Without giving them the tools. Like, you need to teach your daughter better, but no one's telling you. There is no class for this typically. It's not like you go to the doctor and it's like, hey, my child's about to start their period. Let me take notes and you tell me what. There's no visit for that.
No, there should be. Why do you think that the American Academy of Pediatrics doesn't have a specific appointment for that?
The American Academy of Pediatrics does an exceptional job of doing like a ton of anticipatory guidance based on age.
I actually had them on the podcast like 2 years ago about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they talk about a variety of things like this should happen, but you can't go into that level of detail when you have a 15-minute visit or 30-minute visit. And I believe periods take longer than that. Puberty takes longer than that. Just explaining the menstrual cycle and what it means and allowing for questions takes 10 full minutes. And I haven't even gotten to why they are there yet. But that's why I have historically gotten in trouble for having very long visits.
Your patients are very lucky.
Oh, and I love them. And they tell me how grateful they are. But the medical system that we have today doesn't honor the counseling education time that is necessary for things like this. And you really need to lay that groundwork like, hey, let's just make it all make sense today. And then we can highlight what's normal, what's abnormal. What are my other options? Why would a menstrual cup be a good option? Why might period underwear be preferred? What medicine should I take? And why does this medicine work better than this one for my needs? When do I need to come back? You can't have that conversation if you do not lay the groundwork for what is normal and expected. And we are too afraid to talk about what is normal and expected. So my goodness, how are we going to identify what's abnormal?
If you're just rushing through it, then you don't know.
You don't know. And many parents don't know. Parents, especially those who had baseline abnormal periods, they're like, well, I always miss school too with every period. And I'm like, my goodness, you probably have generations of endometriosis. Like, and I mean, I've seen so many parent-child pairs recently, grandmother, mother, child. They all have classic endometriosis symptoms. No one's ever been treated.
And they just thought that's what a normal period is like. Because if you don't know and your mom doesn't know and your grandma doesn't know, like that's just what's typical in your house, in your family.
This very thing just happened the other week. The mom was like, I was telling her, I think she's just struggling because she's just not used to it. So you know what? It's actually not my desire for her to get used to debilitating pain.
No.
You've gotten used to it because you've gone through so many years. I was like, but I'm worried about endometriosis. And once I explained what it was, she said, wait a second, I think I might have that.
Oh.
And I said, well, tell me more. And she's like, my periods have always been awful. I just power through. And so what she was preparing was to teach her daughter how to power through, that this is what we do in this family. This is what strong women do.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the perpetuators of the patriarchal belief that women are just supposed to carry pain are us. We're doing it because we don't know another way. Mm-hmm. And so this book was the other way. This book was giving parents like the opportunity and education to better understand that there is another way, because we can only parent from what we've experienced unless we are taught another way.
Yes. If we don't know better, you can't do better.
Yes.
I love that. And that's why I love this book so much. And also for me personally, I look at it through a lens of having a male child, right? I have a son. My son is a boy going through puberty. And it's important for me to have him understand.
Yes.
Menstrual cycles and all of that. And you know what's really cute? I have to say, the girls at school in his class are so open talking about their experiences that the boys are learning from them.
Yes, this generation is much more open, as you even mentioned. And just historically, the child is not the one carrying the shame, right? It is the parent. It is the adults in the life. And so this generation specifically, they're talking about periods on social media. They're talking about a ton of things. And it's beautiful to have that conversation. Again, there needs to be the addition of the medical accuracy, right?
Yes.
And safety and those things that adults tend to carry. And which is why I want trusted adults in the room too. I want them to be resources to their kids, because talking to your peers has never been enough, right?
A bunch of seventh graders together just talking about that stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Some of it's going to be fact. A lot of it's going to be fiction, much speculation. So you're correct. They are way more open. Now, having said that, that openness starts to change as they live a little longer, as they get around more adults, as society teaches them that that openness is not welcome or that openness is not appropriate. Yes. Right. And so you start to see this openness, and then it closes off as they get older and they've been shamed a few times or someone's made fun of them. And so that's also why I tell parents, you got to start early. You got to start even before the body's changing, before there is any sort of outside influence or like a magnifying glass on themselves, like introduce it early so that there is less of a, this is me, this is my body, this is what has happened to me, and more of this is a normal process that then starts to become personal over time. But yes, the younger population, they're talking about it.
They are. Yeah. They're talking. I was so happy and surprised when he told me that. My first thought was, wow, I'm so surprised that they're doing that. And then I was like, you know what? That's wonderful. Good for them for talking freely. And he understood, because I didn't explain to him about tampons, but then he was explaining to me about tampons because the girls in their class had to go get them and they weren't shy to hide them. You know, I think growing up for us, I'm showing here, I have a pencil. Yes. You kind of like, you would hide it in your sleeve. I don't know, in my school, we would like hide it in our sleeve and kind of go to the bathroom. Yes. If it were like a magic trick. Right. And you can't see what I have in my hand here on my sleeve.
Do you remember the tampons that came like compact and you had to like plug out the plunger so that you could hide them better?
Yes. I do remember those.
Because I was like, easy hiding.
Because you could palm that easier. Right now I have a lip gloss. I'm taking my lip gloss. You could palm that easier than you could like a full thing like that. I'm so with you. I went to high school in the 90s. And so
there's so much there, but they don't do that anymore. And I love that. I love it so much. And I do think that this is the time, because this generation is the generation of conversations and pushing the envelope and doing so in a way that is curious and open and like inclusive. Mm-hmm. And I do think, many people don't believe this. We can learn a lot from this generation. And that's my favorite thing. One of my sayings is, curiosity is one of the purest forms of love.
Yes.
Right. And I really want parents to talk with their kids during this time and before this time with curiosity. Whenever their parents are like, well, how do you start the conversation? Curiosity. What do you know about this? Has anyone in your school started having a period? Do you know what a period is? That's when I have like really young patients, I say, do you know what a period is? And it is, golden to hear their responses. I'd be like, when you bleed from your butt. I'm like, okay. Part of that's correct. Part of that's not. Let's talk about, and sometimes they're just like, duh. And I even do that when we're talking about, sex and risk. Do you know what sex is? And sometimes they'll be like, when you kiss with no clothes on. I'm like, okay. But they don't. So sometimes they don't even know what things are in a true sense. Like you mentioned, there's an idea, but we're not making it plain enough. Like as parents, we need to make things plain. We need to ask open-ended questions, see what their understanding is, see what needs to be corrected, and see where we can build instead of just making assumptions about what they may or may not know. That's another thing I see often.
That people are sort of assuming that their children know X, Y, and Z, and then they don't. Tell me more about that. Say more about that.
So, it can be as simple as, I'm trying to think of the best example. Okay, so a mom that literally said, pads are under the sink. And so the idea was that the child knew that they should get the pad when they would need it, but they shouldn't bleed for longer than 5 to 7 days. They didn't tell them that. This daughter, she bled for 3 months because her mom said, if you're bleeding, use a pad. Not, you should not bleed for longer than this amount. If you have to keep getting pads, let me know. Right? There was just an assumption. How can you assume that? Why would she know that? Why would she? I didn't know that. When I was young, I was worried about not knowing because in the South, my time of the month, they didn't say a week. I was shocked to find it could be a week. I was like, why wouldn't you just say a week? There is a week for 7 days. Why would you not say that? Hours. Literally thought hours. And I was a smart kid. So you just can't assume these things if you're not explicitly told.
It's true. That is so true. At first, as you were starting to say that about the pads under the sink, it made me laugh because my mom kept our pads under the sink. So I was like, oh, this story sounds like my mom. But I think for me, I realized that I had a week-long period because that, for whatever reason, that's just how my body was. And I remember in the movie My Girl, with Macaulay Culkin, there's a line that Anna Klumsky says, she gets her period in the movie.
Yes.
And he comes to hang out and she says to him, don't come back for 5 to 7 days.
Yes.
And I remember seeing, obviously I was that age at the time. I did have my period, so I got the joke. I remember hanging out with a younger friend of mine and she didn't understand. Right. She didn't know the joke. And she's like, why would she say that to him? And then part of me was like, do I want to get into explaining it to this girl or just leave it? And I think I just left it. But I just remember thinking I was like, no, because also then my thought was that's her mom's responsibility to have to explain that to her. I don't want to have to explain this to her for the first time.
And that's another thing. If parents don't do this explaining, yes, your kids are going to be learning from their peers who may understand it like you or may not. So again, I never want folks to assume that their kid understands the basics, right? And I try not to even assume that the parents that bring in their kids to me understand the basics too. I get really, really granular and say, I don't want to insult your intelligence, but for their sake, we're just going to go through it all. And I have found even grandmothers will say, you taught me something. I've never understood my period the way you explained it. And it's like, why? So anyway.
I know. It's true, though. No, the why is a big thing. But you know what? We're doing something about it. We're having conversations about this, which leads me to the next thing. Obviously, in addition to your book, you have a collab with the Little Words Project.
Yes. I wish I had my bracelet with me. My bracelet with the Little Words Project, it just launched on the 11th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It says talk about it. And, I wanted it to be very simple. I wanted it to be something that if people saw it, they would feel empowered to say that, talk about what? What is this? Like a conversation starter, if you will. But I also would love it if parents thought about purchasing that and giving it to their child and saying, you know what? If you ever want to talk about it, I need you to know that you can. Or maybe you can put this bracelet on if you want to have a little private conversation and I'll know, And it's not, I think there's, I always say there's a difference between secrecy and privacy, right? There's privacy that makes people feel safe and comfortable, right? Secrecy is the shame aspect where it's you can't know this because it's not okay, right? But if it's hey, we have our private talks and you can put this bracelet on whenever you want to have a private talk with mom.
I love
wouldn't that be precious?
It's so important. It's so important. I obviously am a huge fan of talking about things, which is why we're here right now. But I thought that even for period, I thought that for mental health issues, I thought that for so many different scenarios in our parenting journey when we want to talk about things. I mean, it runs the gamut. It runs miscarriage, pregnancy loss, infertility, like so many different things. Just talk about it.
Right. And I think, the things that we talk the least about are the things we need to be talking more about, right? They are the things that carry the greatest opportunity for improvement. They are the things that affect us the most. And so we often don't talk about them because we're afraid of what that vulnerability might lead to. Like, what might my child ask? What might that bring up for me? How scary might that be? And so what I want to encourage parents to do is lean into that vulnerability. Like, you're an imperfect human being. That's okay. Your kid has never needed you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They need your love. They need your support. And you are capable of doing all of those things. So maybe something makes you tearful. That's okay. Maybe they ask you a question and you don't have the answer. You can say, I don't know. Maybe it brings up some old feelings that you need to talk with your therapist about. That is okay. But avoiding it has never solved anything. It will help to perpetuate kind of that shame throughout future generations. And many of the parents I've met have verbalized to me a strong desire to change those generational cycles. Yeah. So that's what I want to help them do. I want to help them be the change they know that they want to be. So that's my work. That's my goal.
And you're doing it. You do it every single day, whether it's online or in your practice. In the book, across the board, you're doing it. I'm going to ask you a question. I ask all of my guests. What do you think is the biggest modern mom problem today?
Ooh, time. I would say lack of time. And I feel that at least that's my biggest mom problem. Yeah. I feel like there's so many things that are pulling for our times in this modern world, right? Mm-hmm. And it can be the social medias. It can be our emails. It's the nonstop communication and access.
Yes.
That I feel in every aspect of my life. Emails that are coming in during this call, I'm like, oh, got to email her back. Yeah. Daycare updates, and then just the world in and of itself, and having an awareness of what's happening in every corner of the world.
Yes.
For me, all of that information and access feels like it is pulling on my time and energy. And it's not that I want to go back in time where we didn't have communication devices and all of those things, but I always wish I just had more time.
Yes, that is such a good answer. I feel the same pressure and being pulled in so many different directions. And it definitely has to do with the phone that we're always on. Everyone always has access to us 24/7, plus or minus. And it is challenging to work through that and to carve out your own time for yourself.
Mm-hmm. But this is just my brain, and I always try to do this. The flip side of that is all of the access that we have, the ability to review multiple research articles for me to come up with the best option for my patient who's in the room. Mm-hmm. The ability to know that my son got dropped off at daycare and is safe there and see a picture of him with his friends.
Aww.
The ability to anticipate traffic and go the easier route because it's telling me that someone had, a car accident ahead of me. The ability to order groceries so that I can protect my time. The ability to book flights for my family. So, everything comes with the good and the bad. And I don't want to do like a toxic positivity thing, but I think it's important in this day and age as mothers, as parents, to really take good inventory of the good.
Yes. Yes.
We are so quick to keep track of the bad, to keep track of the offenses and the injuries. It's like, what about those beautiful moments?
Yeah.
What about when your son just laughed for no reason or made up a cute new game or hugged your leg twice because you can just feel that he just wanted to give you a double dose of love? There's a part of me that's intentionally trying not to lead with complaint, try to at least, if I can't be totally positive, I want to at least be balanced in my outlook.
I agree. I am the same way. I think balance is key because it could skew one way or the other too hard. And I'm not about that. You are so fantastic. I could chat with you literally all day. Tell us where we could get this beautiful book. Tell me all the things. Where can we follow you? How beautiful are you with that?
So the Period and Puberty Parenting Revolution is available for pre-order wherever you buy books. It actually releases officially on the 19th. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or Threads at The Period Doctor. And I'm so thrilled to invite you all to be a part of this revolution. Boy moms, girl moms, all moms, everyone, parents, aunts, uncles, you can all be a part of the revolution. If you know someone that gets a period, who will get a period or has a period, you can help improve their period experience.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was a joy.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Modern Mom Probs. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive in today's problem with me, your host, Tara Clark. Join me next time when I'll be interviewing another great guest and tackling another modern mom problem. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating. As always, you could head over to Modern Mom Probs on Instagram and give me a follow, or check out my book, Modern Mom Probs, A Survival Guide for 21st Century Mothers, available online wherever books are sold. Well, that's it for today. See you next time, folks.